When nature turns terrifying, it spares no one. A terrifying event once happened with Flight 571, a plane that crashed in an icy region thousands of feet above the ground. The only way the surviving passengers could stay alive was by consuming the flesh of their deceased family and friends. Imagine how horrifying this must have been. They fought for survival for 72 days at the peak of the Andes Mountains, where their only food source was the flesh of those who had died. You could call the story of Flight 571 either one of the greatest miracles on Earth or one of the most horrifying events in human history. I'm certain this story will shake your soul. The terrifying incident began on October 12, 1972, when a charter plane took off from Uruguay in South America, heading toward Santiago, the capital of Chile. On board were a group of rugby players, some family members, and friends, a total of 45 passengers, including 3 crew members. The journey was supposed to take only 3 hours, crossing over the Andes Mountains. However, due to worsening mountainous weather, the plane had to make an emergency landing in Mendoza, Argentina, where it stayed overnight. On October 13th at 3 p.m., the plane took off again, attempting to fly over the Andes towards Santiago. But thick fog and poor visibility caused the pilots to lose track of their exact location. The plane was flying at an altitude of nearly 18,000 feet, and while the pilots believed they had cleared the mountain range, in reality, they hadn't. They contacted the Santiago airport for permission to land, and based on the provided location, ATC granted permission. At 3:21 p.m., the pilots began descending the aircraft, but as the plane lowered, they realized they were still within the mountain range and were headed straight for a towering peak. The pilot tried to climb again, but it was too late. The tail of the aircraft struck a snowy ridge, breaking off from the main body and causing 3 passengers to be thrown out immediately. And one wing was also torn off, causing the plane to lose balance. The other wing detached upon a second collision. Finally, the fuselage crashed at 350 kilometers per h onto the snow-covered slope of the Andes and came to a violent stop. The pilot died on impact, and 12 people perished immediately, but 33 survivors remained, many of them severely injured. Unaware of where they had landed, they were stranded 3,570 meters, 11,700 feet, above sea level in an unknown part of the Andes. Survival seemed almost impossible, and this was just the beginning. As night fell, concern grew for the injured passengers. Nighttime temperatures in the Andes could drop to minus 31 degrees Celsius, minus 24 degrees Fahrenheit. If rescue didn't come soon, many more would perish. Within hours, both Uruguayan and Chilean governments launched a joint rescue mission with 4 helicopters. But due to heavy snow and thick fog, they couldn't locate the white aircraft against the similarly colored snowy backdrop. Night came, and the survivors huddled inside the wreckage. 5 more people died that night. The remaining 28 managed to make it through to the next day, October 14th, when another search effort began with 11 helicopters. Again, the white aircraft remained invisible to the rescuers. Survivors tried to signal the aircraft by writing SOS with lipstick and placing suitcase markers in the snow, but their attempts failed. On October 15, search efforts resumed, still no success. The survivors realized they were truly trapped in a nightmare with no idea when or if rescue would come. They began melting snow for drinking water and scavenging anything edible. After 8 days, another passenger died. Eventually, after 10 days, the military called off the search, assuming no one had survived. The survivors learned of this decision via a radio they found in the cockpit. Hearing the news of their own supposed deaths and the end of rescue efforts shattered their hopes. But despite the hopelessness, their will to survive remained. They made makeshift blankets and snowshoes from seat covers and insulation. But the greatest challenge was food. They knew that if they didn't act soon, they'd starve to death. So they made the agonizing decision to eat the bodies of the deceased. With everyone's consent beforehand, they agreed that if anyone died, their body would be used to sustain the others. This inhuman decision was taken in the most inhuman circumstances. It caused immense physical and emotional pain, but there was no other way to survive. Then came October 29th, day 16, when an avalanche struck their makeshift shelter. 8 more passengers were killed. The remaining 19 fought to stay alive buried under snow. Over the days, they faced new challenges: daily injuries, illness, psychological trauma, and snowstorms. But slowly they stopped fearing death. On day 59, December 11, another disaster took 3 more lives. But this time, the remaining survivors didn't panic. Death had become a constant companion. Eventually, 3 men, Fernando Parado, Roberto Canessa, and Antonio Vicentin, decided they couldn't wait any longer. They had to get help themselves. On December 12th, they began climbing the snowy mountains without gear, risking their lives. Vicentin had to turn back due to food shortage. Parado and Canessa continued the journey for over 10 days, eventually reaching a river and following it until they encountered a Chilean shepherd named Sergio Catalan on December 20th. Sergio quickly informed the authorities, who dispatched helicopters that very evening. Due to darkness, the rescue was postponed to the next morning. On December 21st, after 72 days, the remaining 16 survivors were finally rescued. Most were extremely weak but alive. This event stands as a powerful example of human willpower, survival, and the strength of the human spirit. Despite all odds, the survivors of Flight 571 came back from the edge of death and taught the world a lesson in resilience. Their story is both terrifying and inspiring, one of the greatest survival stories ever told. If you found this story compelling, leave a comment and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.